former bassist in Megadeth. And, you know, David, when everything went down, as you know, I reached out to you personally, and I'm sure many other people did as well. We were thinking of you, and I know it probably had to feel like the world was caving in on you there at that time. But I want to give you the opportunity to say to the fans and to the audience, you know, because I'm sure, like anything, there's a lot of misinformation that comes out about things. What would you like to say as far as a statement? I know you released one at the time, but about what happened and what went down and what was leaked out. What would you like to say in terms of addressing that?
Well, you know, look, I ran toward the bullets and dealt with it right away. You know, the night it happened, you know, some couple people said, hey, don't say anything. In particular, the Megadeth camp didn't want me to say anything. But, you know, my legal said, hey, I think you should say something. You know, I think some people have done some really, you know, shitty things here and made some false allegations about you, and you have every right to defend yourself. And I did. And, you know, ultimately that led to my dismissal from Megadeth. But I have every right, as anyone does, to, you know, to defend yourself, especially when somebody is making, you know, false allegations about you like that. So, you know, I dealt with it that night, and quite honestly, that was it. It was over, and it was really kind of done because, you know, but then, you know, you know, I think, you know, the Megadeth camp in particular jumped in and, you know, had addressed it, and not that they shouldn't, but they did. And, you know, that's, you know, pretty quickly led to them making a decision to part ways with me and to move away from it. You know, there's obviously the tour that they just did, the Metal Tour of the Year coming up. And I think, you know, we had originally talked about, you know, doing a joint statement of sorts. And of course, that was not what happened. And so, look, I was disappointed in probably the way it went down. But, you know, look, as things go, you know, like you said, I've been in Megadeth, I've been out of Megadeth. You know, I remember sitting Midtown with you before, you know, 20 years ago, you know, having these discussions and you know, now I'm, you know, formally of, I have, ironically, you know, things are fine between us. You know, we parted ways and, you know, they took their road and there's not ill will between us, believe it or not. And I think any fights and those things, you know, that was 20 years ago and, you know, lawsuits and all that crap. But, you know, honestly, look, they moved forward on the tour. I wish them well in my statement to them. And I mean it, you know, it's a group I helped form, almost 40 years coming up here for the band. And, you know, the songs that are on the radio, ironically on Sirius, half the time, you know, that I see come up are songs that I had a participation in. And, you know, we built a big legacy, and, you know, I still consider them family, and, you know, my DNA is all over that. And I don't think you build something of that size together and then suddenly you're just out and that's it. So, I think, you know, ultimately kind of cooler heads prevailed and everybody's moved on. And I took some time, you know, to just chill out. I mean, you know, you and I've had many interviews recently in the last couple of years, you know, and I've been pretty much go, you know, between the record label and coffee and solo things and things that I've done. And, you know, at some point, you know, this probably was a necessary season for me to just slow down, go off the grid, relax, and, you know, spend time at home with my family, recorrect some just kind of lifestyle things for me, you know, and so that's been a good season for me to do that. And, you know, we always had planned for this Lucid record and the Dwellers movie to come out here in October, so we just stayed the course with that. And, you know, so last month has been kind of just sort of, you know, slowly coming back online again and let everybody know, look, I'm okay. Megadeth's okay. Everything's okay, you know. And, you know, so I think that's important, you know. There are no fights. There is no ill will. Everybody's just moved on. And you know, maybe that's just, you know, look, we're all a little older. We just get on with our lives and we move into the next season of our lives.
Yeah. So yeah. Look, I mean, I used to, you know? I used to joke with you when you did come on so much with me, whether it was coffee or booze or whatever, you know, is this a different band or a record or a CD or whatever? Because I used to joke and say you're the hardest working man in metal, and you were going nonstop there. And so there's that side of it. There's the Megadeth side of it. But for you, you know, as far as the actual, You said you had to, I'm sure, with all of this, you had to deal with some stuff on the home front. You had I'm sure you acknowledge that you made a mistake here. People make mistakes. In the big picture of the music industry, people have done far, far, far worse things. But I imagine that you had a time, and that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you very early on privately, and I know others did as well, because we were worried about you. I think, and that probably, did you get a lot of that? I mean, I know that it must have felt like the walls were coming in at some point, because that's the nature of the world we're in now. People sort of, I call it pounce society. People see somebody make a mistake or a vulnerability or do something they probably regretted doing, and then just everyone wants to come down on them. And some people handle that and manage it pretty well. And from the outside, it looks like you did. Others don't, and it could be catastrophic. So can you talk a little bit about that, when this all broke, how you handled it? Because it did, until Megadeth let you go, it did go away pretty quickly, and it did seem like it moved on pretty quickly. I'm sure internally and with your family and personally, you were still dealing with a lot of stuff, but the external seemed to go quiet pretty quick.
Yeah, it did, because there was really nothing there. You know what I mean? And it did go away. And listen, you're right. Look, I was flying pretty high, pretty fast at a high altitude and hit some turbulence, no doubt. You know what I mean? So, and people reminded me, say, hey, listen, dude, we're all human. We all make mistakes, man. Especially, even more so in rock and roll, and it's all of that. And yes, thank you, by the way, for reaching out to me, because you did ping me on the text, and it was just between two buddies, and I thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, I want to make sure you're okay. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of other musicians, industry people, rock stars, from the smallest to the absolute biggest, reached out to me. Everybody was like, hey, brother, are you okay? Anything you need from me, let me know. And it was very, very supportive from everybody. It's which was great, because everyone's at your side when you're picking up your Grammy and you're on the red carpet and everything's going great. But it's sort of like, the greater judge of character is, who are you, who am I, when we're kind of at our bottom, when we've shown some real humanness, and this was a moment where I'm happy to say people really rallied around me. And you're right, Eddie. I mean, I've gone through, a few dark seasons in my life over the years, as we all do, drugs and alcohol, in and out of Megadeth from 20 years ago. Things happen, things go down. And, this was a dark one. I'm not going to lie, just because of, I think, the sort of nature of I'm not going to lie. There were some bullies for sure, that come at you and you're like, whoa, what is this? And who am I?
David, let me jump in real quick here, because I want to ask you this. What was, from when this was all at its peak going down and the fallout from it, I know one of the things you wanted to put out was this a misconception, because I had never even heard the term grooming or any of that. But what was the biggest misconception about all of it? What was the biggest narrative you were hearing out there that was just that you want to put in it? You wanted to set the record straight on.
Well, that was one, and that's why I came right out and said, "Hey, that's fucking bullshit." I didn't even know what that word was either. I have no idea. But right. And any allegations of any illegal, anything being illegal, and there was nothing. And again, that's why I immediately hired a criminal lawyer. I went right to the police department. And just for the record, the bad guy doesn't go to the police department. Okay, so just to be clear, the guy who didn't do anything wrong, he goes to the police department. That's why I went to the police department and filed the police report and let them deal with it. And I think there was a big fear of, there's always this talk of cancel culture and all this stuff. And it's like, I was like, listen, that was not me. And I had every right to stand up against that and defend myself against it. And, I just turned that over to, the lawyers and police department and let them deal with it. And they did. And, and I think, look, certainly time heals wounds in these things, which is good. And that was the thing. It's like, look, I didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing illegal here, and you let it go. And for me to just kind of take some time away and go dark, look, I got off all social media. I have one Facebook account that I don't even run, just for kind of professional purposes and everything. But I'm off of that, and And I think that helps. You know, a lot of this social media stuff, you know, Eddie, because it's the world we live in. You know, there aren't record company publicists. There aren't people, doing this stuff anymore. And in a day that you and I grew up in the record business, right? And so a lot of this stuff has been put in the hands of individual musicians, celebrities, people on social media, and a lot of those platforms encourage it. They're like, hey, you have to be engaged with your fans. You have to always be posting something. You always have to be doing something. And I realize now, being away from all that now for 6 months, I'm like, you don't have to be doing that. You can have a private life. You don't have to be just always pushing content out there, because quite honestly, that's where the problems lie, and that's where that culture lies, where, people can just come at you with stuff. And so the first thing I did was just get off of it and get away from it, because that was, I think, the first step toward, a corrective course, and also healing. You know what I mean? You can put anything up on social media, and Tuesday morning they love you, and by Tuesday afternoon they hate you, and they're fighting their courses.
You got to know. Yeah, that's why. I've never, and my social media and the vast majority of the people that follow me on it are great people. But yeah, that's why I a long time ago got out of the whole worrying about or dealing with comments or any of that stuff. But it's a valuable tool to let people know what's going on when you're in the end of the business we're in entertainment. What's going on with my radio show every day. But I rarely, if ever, put more personal stuff up there, because you're right. It opens a door to people, and it could be a cesspool in certain times, and also the spread of a lot of disinformation, which is why I wanted to give you the opportunity here today to address any misinformation that might have been out there about this whole thing, because we know. Look, I'm broadcasting from Hollywood, California.